Welcome to DNF, the podcast hosted by me, Jessica Spatana, and of course, Spencer Hall. We are going to be recapping the weekend in Imola in Formula One, but we also have some other things that we have to talk about. Very important things that we saw on the internet this weekend, and also things that happened perhaps in NASCAR. Spencer, take it away.
Yeah, you don't want to start a Formula One podcast with NASCAR, but we're going to for this reason. One, Imola, beautiful track, great history, superb lineage. The romance of Imola and Monaco. Not exactly two races back to back that are going to be compelling racing or terribly interesting. Beautiful, important, sure. Is it going to be the best thing you've ever watched? Probably not. You know what the best thing I watched this weekend was, Jessica? It was a NASCAR fight.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, it was a fight between Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And they fought back by the haulers. There was some tussling. There was some hollering. There was a father involved, which is how you know it was a true hillbilly affair. So first of all, shorter guy, tall guy. I know who's going to punch first. There we go. There we go. He didn't really mean that punch.
He didn't even make contact. Yeah.
He barely made contact. Now look, you know they didn't plan it because look at all of the garbage. There's stanchions. There are people in this fight, if you look, they just get caught in equipment. They just get tangled up and spend most of the fight trying to get out of it, right?
This kind of is like how me and my sister used to fight.
Yeah. Also, there's guys in this fight who don't care about any of the people. They just don't want their stuff to get hurt.
Yeah.
Everyone all the guys in green are just like, get off our truck.
Stop touching my shit. It's the kind of fight where two people end up like holding each other's shoulders for a few minutes. Like that, that's a very sibling move where you're like, I don't want to hit you. I don't want to hit you. I don't want to hit you.
Yeah.
What do we do now? I don't know. We're holding each other. It's weird.
Also, you know, don't tussle with the short guy. Don't. Yeah. He means it. You don't. Right? Kyle Busch, he's a millionaire, got tons of money. He's tall. He's a jerk and he knows it. He's got enough. He's fine. He has no complaints with the world other than the constant complaint he has. By the way, that was all Kyle Busch's fault. Can you imagine that kicking off in the paddock at all?
Never.
Between anyone?
No. And I'm not going to lie. It's always funny watching someone wearing a one piece get in a fight.
It's like pajamas.
They look like a little baby.
They do. They look like a kid fighting the cat. That's what they look like every single time. Don't be the kid fighting the cat. But what I wanted to ask is, we don't really get much of this in Formula One.
No, I can't think of it
happening
once.
But I will say this. I think a couple of the guys could actually fight. Like there's a couple of people I would not want any part of in the F1 roster. But before I give my picks, I wanted to ask you, who you looking at and you go, I don't think that man mind's getting hit in the face.
This answer may surprise you, but Fernando Alonso, I think purely on his like lack of giving a fuckness, I think he could throw some punches and I think he could take some punches too.
I mean, he's the only driver on the grid I know of that said, I made that move because I know the other guy had kids. Right?
That's an insane thing to say.
Kind of, yeah. Like I wouldn't. Also, he's short. I feel like
they're all short. It's really hard to picture any of them getting in a physical altercation. Can you even think of a single? At least since I started watching Formula One, I can't think of anything bleeding out off the track between drivers. Even at like the most heated Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen battles on the track ended on the track, or people just said mean things about each other afterwards. I can't think of any fights that I've ever seen.
No, which is why you have to kind of go to their training and go, do any of these guys actually have hands? Do any of them actually know how to box or fight? Yeah. And a couple of them do.
Yeah, that's true.
Lewis, I would take Lewis because Lewis practiced karate when he was a kid. And I feel like, you probably remember one or two things, right? Did you play a sport growing up, Jessica?
I played every sport, but mostly soccer. Yeah.
Mostly soccer.
I still play though. So like I remember, Pepper Farm remembers.
Whatever. You've got muscle memory. So like you probably have a shot or a move that you do, right? That you're just like, that's my go-to. I feel like Lewis is like, yeah, I'll chop you in the throat, right? Like he's got like a throat punch And
He's got
also
that in his repertoire. Yeah.
right, he's a little shorter. He's going to go right for my throat. It's probably right at his level. So, like, that's not good. I don't want that. The other one that surprised me, Carlos Sainz Jr., because I actually looked this up, trains boxing, right?
Really? You know what? I wouldn't. Yeah, I could see that. If I'm going historic, I'd say James Hunt. I feel like James Hunt probably got in a few fights, even though he's pretty boy, but he's also, I don't know. I could see it.
The scene in the movie where James Hunt punches Hemsworth as James Hunt punches a reporter,
Maybe that's what I'm doing there. Maybe
fabricated.
that's
That is a
okay.
but
Ah,
but James Hunt did have something similar happen. So I think James Hunt will definitely. How's this? James Hunt to me would be a classic British guy who likes a few drinks, which means he's going to throw a punch. I don't know if he can take one. I
okay.
don't. Okay. Unlike Valtteri, who I think you could punch, but then he'd just walk away. He'd be like, "Well, that's stupid. I could be doing something else. That
Why
was
did you
only
do
pain.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? We could
You
be
make
in
you
the
feel
sauna.
bad about it
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah. Let's go sauna. Then you can apologize to me while we're both naked." Um, that said, we've gotten the excitement out of the way. By the way, neither of those NASCAR guys should ever fight. Ever.
So NASCAR punch fight thing more exciting than Imola,
By
despite
far.
the
Yeah.
last 10 laps being sort of interesting. I do think it's
Yeah.
probably tough for Formula One when golf has a more dramatic storyline heading into a weekend than the racing cars that go 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, and by the way, these are both, I think, a matter of track. We're talking about the PGA Championship, correct?
Oh, yeah.
The PGA Championship was on a fast track. It was on like everybody was hitting like 19 under, right? Like they were all strokes under par to the point where it was a lot like a 62-48 football game. That's not what you're going to get at Imola because the setup at Imola is qualifying dependent and doesn't encourage a whole lot of passing. And I think you've seen with this, and this is a point that, several of the commentators have made, not Crofty, we'll talk about that, made because this is clearly a track that at one point, with a certain configuration of Formula One specs, engine, tech, and drivers, really was a compelling piece of racing scenery. And like some of the older tracks and some of the older circuits, it's just not anymore. Not with the way
Yeah.
things are currently configured. I don't know if there is an adjustment that you really want to make there. I don't know if the new set of specs will make for better racing at Imola, but for this year's Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, it just wasn't very compelling. Like
Yeah.
Lando made a nice rush in the last 10 laps to sort of keep this storyline going that McLaren is not only bumping its way into the big three, but is catching up on Red Bull directly, which still alive. That plot line is still very much alive.
Yes, I think this weekend proved that McLaren has the pace and it wasn't a mirage. It wasn't, a just a thing that happened a one-off in Miami. Like they are going to be competing with Red Bull on pace. And maybe if Lando had qualified ahead of Verstappen, this
Mhm.
race does end differently. Verstappen was able to get that nice toe from Nico Hulkenberg in qualifying, which gave him the edge there. But yes, like you said, the track, it is a racetrack that I think fans really, really like because it
Yep.
is a good circuit, but in just these current heavy, big Formula One cars, there's just no overtaking. And so they've
Mhm.
added gravel and they've added grass and they've tried to make it more punishing if you go off the track. But I think that it maybe also has the unintended consequence of drivers not wanting to take chances because you don't want to accidentally end up in a gravel or grass trap. So my all gravel, make the entire race out of gravel strategy
Mhm.
idea maybe isn't going to be something that they opt for, but could make things more fun.
Yeah, you mentioned the fans, and I think that's a great point. It's a shame because Imola's atmosphere is second to none. The Tifosi really treat it as their party.
Yeah.
If Ferrari so much as farts, they salute it like it's an overture, like it's great. It's no, I love that. Like that's not a diss on them. If Ferrari does anything, they're thrilled. This is clearly one of the best spots for vibes in
Yeah.
F1. It is a place where you see all of the like red smoke from the flares. You see tons of red flags for Ferrari. Everyone else shows up too. The fans are relatively close to the track, so you get this great feeling of intimacy that you don't get at some of the other circuits that produce better racing. It's like calling everyone together in the best possible environment for a party and then insisting on having a book club. That's what
So
Imola can feel like at times.
So the Lando getting within a second of Verstappen at the end of the race didn't do it for you. Like that wasn't enough for you to be like, yeah, this was a good one, because I think for a lot of people it did make up for the first, 40, 50 laps being a
Yeah.
little bit of a snooze.
It was, how's this? Cold comfort. It was just a little extra, a little sort of hook to keep you barely interested. But on the whole, not a lot happened,
Okay. Okay.
Not a lot
Yeah.
happened. Like if you want to know who actually made interesting moves, the most interesting driver of the weekend was Kevin Magnussen, right? Kevin Magnussen gets blocked out by Oscar Piastri in qualifying, which Piastri was penalized for on the grid. Then goes back and I believe has to start in 18th, all the way
Mhm.
back in 18th. And yes, he did get to pass Logan Sargent. He still counts, but then fought his way all the way up to 12th. That,
Yeah,
and did
not bad,
some
not bad.
right, right. And then joked about not seeing the stewards for a weekend. He's like, I miss them. It's like I'm used to seeing them every single weekend, right? So,
You know what? I think that's an interesting, if we're going to name like who our best driver was of the weekend, I think that's interesting. I'm
mhm,
going with Max though, not
yeah,
because he won the race in Imola, not because he was able to win, even though he was being challenged at the end by both by his car and by the McLaren, but he also won his iRacing 24 hours of Nürburgring
hmm.
uh race that he did a stint on Saturday after qualifying. And I think did he also do a stint on Sunday or no? I'm not sure, but they
I don't
won.
know if
His
he did.
team
I don't
won.
know if he did Sunday. I did
Sounds
enjoy
like something he would do.
if you go to TikTok and you just search Max Verstappen on Friday or Saturday, you might get some race highlights and you might get a couple of sound bites from the press conferences. But much to my amusement, the thing that you will find more often than anything else is a static video of him sitting at a sim at doing sim racing and somebody noting the time. And it will be 4 a.m. local time when they have to be at the track at 9. And someone will just, the caption will be LOL, Max is still racing. Max will just be, this was for a 24-hour event.
Yeah.
You don't need that if you're Max Verstappen. Verstappen will be on there with a bunch of teenagers, absolutely wasting them on sim racing at like 4 a.m. for no reason. No reason but the love
No,
of the game.
no, I disagree. Sim racing is his full-time job. F1 is his hobby.
It's his
He
hobby.
he brings a simulator with him on races.
Yeah,
This race was in Italy, and he had a rig set up so that he could do his iRacing there. Like I
yeah.
genuinely think that he views this as his job, and he just gets to also race in Formula One in between his other various endurance races in iRacing.
I'm so glad he graces us with his presence, even though Zack Brown of McLaren, when asked whether Max was indispensable, effectively said no.
No,
Said Max
yeah.
was a great driver, but there's probably, 6 or 7 other drivers you could put in that car and win a title, which I think is accurate, but that number's not 8, right? I
Yeah.
don't think
No,
Zach, I don't, I mean, do you think Zack Brown's being disrespectful towards Max there?
I think Zach Brown just has a bone to pick with Red Bull and Christian Horner, and will do whatever he can to let them, like, remind them basically that he doesn't like them. I don't even think it's anything personal
Yeah.
with Max. I think he just wants to piss them off.
Yeah. I think he does want to piss them off and should. I like this. I want, of
Yeah,
course,
it's
I
fair.
want more mess. I am 100% supportive of, a healthy degree of mess when it comes to beef between teams, drivers, principals, etc. McLaren, I know they weren't Max Verstappen. They didn't have the pace to put the race away, but they very nearly did. For the second race in a row, they were almost as good or better than Red Bull. I know they didn't get the dub. However, 2 and 4. You finished 2 and 4. You essentially took where Ferrari thought they should be in the
Hmm.
standings and sandwiched Leclerc in the 3 spot. An outstanding performance, both for Oscar Piastri, who did have the penalty coming out of qualifying for obstructing Kevin Magnussen in a rare reversal of K-Mag's usual spot in rule adjudication in F1. And Lando doing the one thing that made this race interesting, which was rushing through the last 10 laps and cutting that lead down to, if we only had another lap, we only had
Hmm.
another 2 laps, right? Somebody did point out, though, this sort of is it folly because he still would have had to pass Max at Imola, which would have been nearly impossible?
Yeah, I mean, so I think what this weekend does for me is that it makes me excited for this group of cars to race at another circuit. Like this, I think we're setting
Hmm.
up for like a really interesting Silverstone or a really interesting once we get past Monaco, which is going to be very similar, I think, to this weekend. We now have at least 4 cars that we know have really good pace. And I think you can include the Ferraris in that grouping as competitive. So they had like a smaller package, upgrade package this weekend that I think a lot of fans were expecting would put them, right back up there with the Red Bulls or close to the Red Bulls, and it wasn't quite that. But I do think that they will continue to improve and close the gap a little bit. And so you're going to end up with, I think, really interesting racing down the road. And so having more cars that can be in the mix near the top during qualifying and then actually get to race at tracks where there is overtaking and there are
Hmm.
different tire strategies. This tire strategy for Imola was very basic. Most of the teams were on the exact same strategy. Only a few drivers had an inverted strategy this weekend. So I think that it's kind of setting up for maybe some more interesting racing down the line.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of like the good I don't know what the analogy is, but like it's a nice like preview where it's like we're getting a little bit more anticipation each time for when we get to see a race where all of the things kind of come together at once. And I didn't even mention the Mercedes and potentially, I mean, Aston Martin had a pretty terrible weekend, but they asked Aston Martin if they can get their shit together a little bit, being in that fold as well.
Yeah. I will go ahead and I'll go even shorter sighted in terms of where I'm looking. The fact that the top 10, top 15 aren't separated by that much space anymore. There's really not a whole lot of time between them, especially in midfield between 5 and 10 or 5 and 12. This means that for me, Monaco is Saturday. You're going to run a race on Sunday and you will see all of the, pageantry, the yachts. Somebody will zip by the luxury Wendy's, right, at Monaco, which you can see just over the
Yes,
wall, right? That will all happen. That will all be cool. We can go back and watch dash cam footage from Ayrton Senna and ooh and ah at how cool Monaco is on Sunday. But on Saturday, you're actually going to get the people ripping some insane qualifying laps. This
true.
is where Max, I think, did his best work last year. This is where I think you're going to see Lando Norris attempt to fight God in qualifying because he feels so good in that car and is so confident in what he can do. Same for Piastri, same for Ferrari, because this is again, it's going to be a home race. It's going to be a home race for Leclerc, and as well as a number of the other drivers, but Leclerc in particular, since he's monogased. Saturday is going to be really, really cool. Like if you got to watch one thing and you only have one thing to watch, go watch Monaco qualifying because I think you'll see a tighter field working in a very differently tight set of circumstances in qualifying.
I'm with you. I'm pumped for Saturday.
Yeah.
There was a lot of other miscellaneous things that went on this weekend. We obviously have to mention Yuki Tsunoda having a really good weekend. I think he's clearly uh proven he's the best driver on his team and has just consistently been outperforming the capabilities of his car. He also had a very nice overtake over Logan Sargent, which I know you must have been excited about. So
Hey, still
here's your
counts.
here's your 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever you need to talk about how great Yuki was this weekend.
Yuki was absolutely spectacular. Yuki had the overtake of the day. Yuki continues to be a better driver then his car can back up. In addition to that, let's go ahead and go over the 3 best things about Yuki Tsunoda. 1, his driving skills. 2, didn't have to work out at least one day this week, which I know he hates. All right. And 3, I know he got a snack. That's it. I know it's Italy. I know he got a snack he enjoyed. Those 3 things, again, are the 3 most important things about Yuki Tsunoda's week.
There was also a lot of build up to the race this weekend. They did a 30-year honoring commemoration memorial thing for Art and Senna, which was really nice. There was also George Russell drove a 100-year-old Mercedes in full George Russell. He was dressed up like he was an old-timey driver from the 1920s. Yes. And he looked like he was straight out of central casting for Downton Abbey. So I really enjoyed that content as well. George Russell didn't have a great time this weekend. He finished behind Lewis. Which he tends to do. And he didn't love it. He didn't love having to come into pit to try to get fastest lap. There were just a lot of things that he wasn't happy about this weekend, but I was happy seeing him in his little old-fashioned racing outfit, racing that old car.
I was very, very fond of him embracing the "I'm a guy who died in a biplane crash" look. Like that's definitely looked like a guy who died in a biplane crash. Definitely looked like doomed boyfriend on Downton Abbey. I appreciate him just
Matthew.
Literally,
spoiler alert,
like literally steering into hey, you named him. There's so many boyfriends who die on
the
Downton
show
Abbey.
Came out. It's like 10 years old. There's no spoilers on 10-year-old shows. He's not beating the Victorian doll allegations when he's dressing up like he is living in the 1920s in Britain.
The porcelain lad.
Yeah.
The porcelain lad.
He just looked so funny in that little outfit. Oh man, it was good stuff though. There was also something that I really, really, really want to talk about, Spencer.
Please.
Which I think it's time to bring up. It is a video of Lewis Hamilton doing the Denver Broncos schedule reveal. Lewis Hamilton is a minority owner of the Broncos. He's part of the new ownership group that bought them last year, 2 years ago, I believe. So they asked him to reveal the Broncos schedule by eating different types of food from each city of the Broncos opponents.
I think, by the way, there's a natural limitation to any Lewis reviews food in the name of video because, and this is his decision, I am not condemning it or endorsing it or whatever, he's vegetarian, and that takes some important dishes of the United States off the map, right? It just takes them
important distinction. You're correct, absolutely. But is he vegetarian or is he vegan?
I would guess the more extreme and cool thing would be Lewis's thing. So I'm going to gamble on him being vegan.
Okay, because
which takes even more of the American menu off. Because then
you're eating ranch made out of like cashews instead of like heavy cream and like whatever else is in ranch. I couldn't tell you what is ranch.
Yes, look, Hamilton is
milk.
Hamilton is vegan. Which shouts out to vegans, by the way, because that is just a pain in the ass. It is so hard.
Oh, but you don't like cheese, so it wouldn't be that hard for you.
No, it's actually like it's fair. That part is fairly easy. Everything else is just logistically seems really difficult. I know that he has all of the money and resources in the world to make it work for him, but if that's just you out there living, man, shouts out to you. That's dedication.
You can get the expensive imitation eggs.
Yes, he can get that.
All right, let's watch this.
What's our lad trying here?
That one's definitely the work one.
What the hell is that? It's giving me good like Hot Ones vibes.
Yes.
Might have to rip some.
Hey, I'm Lewis Hamilton, and today I'm going to be helping the Broncos reveal their schedule by trying out food from the 2024 finals. I don't believe in Indiana this is what they'll eat, but I guess.
Yeah, that is what. I mean,
so he's eating ranch with like carrots and celery sticks.
Right.
There's no way that they're eating carrots down there.
What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, I think he thinks they're eating like pork loin sandwiches, which yeah. If you've seen the Indiana tenderloin that's as big as a hubcap, yeah.
He could have ended the sentence with "I don't believe in Indiana."
That's also fine.
That's just really good.
That's right.
Actually, that's really banging. Gosh darn it. What is a yinzer? Why are yinzer? That's just mashed potatoes?
What's a
A
yinzer?
yinzer's
Mashed
getting this in
potato
their town?
pierogi.
This is so good.
Also,
It's
proof
like-
that
it's like
pierogi
a
hits
real
wherever
dish.
you're having it, right?
It
With
smells
dumpling,
and
it's
tastes a little
universal.
bit like something Roscoe would eat. Whew.
Okay, how are you gonna make
Atlanta,
a
I mean-
vegan Creole? It just, yeah.
Yeah,
Also-
he didn't like that. But
No,
that also strikes me as something that needs some animal byproducts in it.
yeah, and not to defend the Falcons on any front here, but watch him with peach cobbler, and let me tell you, it would be very difficult, I think, to make a proper peach cobbler without like
Ice cream.
ice cream, animal fats. Yeah, this is
Butter.
just crumbs. You're just
Yeah.
eating crumbs. This
That's
sucks.
fair.
This is not good.
I sympathize
This
with
is
him
southern
here.
food.
That is not Southern food. You can't
is
eat
Southern's
Southern food,
finest.
Lewis.
He hated the grits. He's eating the grits and he hates the grits.
What the hell is that?
You don't like grits, Spencer?
I love grits. Grits are fine.
Grits
Yeah.
need
Just
cheese
so
and butter.
slimy. It
though.
looks like something
Yeah,
you see in the
I gotta
Matrix when
say,
they-
like, without cheese or
it's like
butter,
what you'd imagine they have
you're
in
not gonna be
prison-
getting much
prison
out of the
food, yeah.
experience. This
He
is
called
prison
it
food.
prison food.
That one really offended me.
That's correct. This is not golf. What would you know about prison?
The Chargers, they made him avocado toast.
You know what? I
is
think
bomb.
that's, yeah.
And he loved it. That was his
Of course.
absolute favorite.
Nah, leave that for Roscoe.
He made
I
him
didn't
a
even think
dog
Roscoe's
treat.
gonna like that. If I'm honest. Ugh.
You think Roscoe be vegan?
Roscoe definitely eats beef carpaccio,
Let's see
by
what
the
else
way.
she has.
Say, don't do that to the top. Casey style barbecue is fascinating to me
Barbecue
because
sauce.
what is he eating?
It's supposed to be
It's
spicy.
jackfruit. I looked on the menu.
Is it jackfruit? Okay.
Yeah, which is actually
had-
not
I've
bad.
I've had that. It's not bad. No. Oh,
He
they
did
gave
like the
him.
barbecue. I know they gave him Skyline
liked it.
chili, meatless Skyline
the hype.
chili.
I actually
This is
liked
And
it.
he liked it.
Oh,
Avocado
that's
toast
damning.
is so
That's
bad.
damning, Lewis.
I thought they were the shit.
I trust his taste in most things.
Is that real dog biscuit? Have you ever tried grits? It was like dog's puke.
It's a little harsh. I'll stand for grits here.
Oh man, that's like my favorite video that exists on the internet now.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the Chargers schedule announcement. It is superior.
Second
for our
favorite
purpose.
video.
For our purposes, this is the second best one. Jessica, do we think we could sell Lewis on grits in an alternate world where he eats other things?
I think anyone that eats proper grits, I don't know. I've never encountered someone that's had like real good home cooked grits with all the fixins that's been like, oh, this is disgusting. Because yes,
Mhm.
the texture can be a little strange, especially if they're not cooked well. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming they made that for him with like water, which is not the way to do it.
No, not the way to do it at all, because it will just taste like
Disappointing.
the worst polenta you've ever had in your
Yeah.
life. Second, they were very kind to Pittsburgh cuisine, which I know has a place in your heart. However, I did want to say, is his fondness for Cincinnati Skyline chili an indictment of Lewis Hamilton's lack of taste in the first area of his life where I have found he might have a lack of taste, a literal lack of taste?
Okay, first of all, going back to Pittsburgh for a second, what the pierogies are delicious, of course. Mashed potato pierogi, great choice. But what they should have gotten him was a salad with French fries on it because A, it's vegan, and B, I think he would have really enjoyed. He really would have enjoyed that, and I really would have enjoyed watching him see what that plate of food is. But yeah, the Skyline chili thing is super alarming.
That's
we
sus.
may need to like. I don't know what to do here. We may need to have some sort of intervention. I don't like that. I don't like what that means.
I am now deeply suspicious of only one area, one quartile of this man's taste after watching this
You know
video.
what? I'm just thinking maybe it reminded him of like shepherd's pie
Yeah. Yeah.
because the Brits do like their like meaty like filling with like a carb. Ugh. I guess it's really just like a meat sauce on a pasta when you break it
You
down,
know,
right?
Here's the other thing too. Pierogi, it's a superpower. Every single culture in the world has
A pocket
item
food.
like a pocket food. Yeah, pocket food is
So good.
universal. So I think like Pittsburgh had the edge there. All right. As they do in most things.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying the first nice thing you've ever said to me.
About Pittsburgh? I've said plenty of nice things about Pittsburgh.
I don't know about that. Oh yeah. Next time we'll take him to Permanis. We'll get him a nice sandwich without the layer of meat.
We'll find out Permanis cooks their delicious fries in some sort of animal fat that's like
Oh, I'm sure
exotic
they
and
do.
cruel,
Yeah.
even by Pittsburgh standards. They're
No,
like,
it's
yeah,
probably
we
like
cook
deer fat.
elephant lard. We cook our fries in elephant lard.
We dip them in the mon before we put them in the
Right.
fryer.
That's what gives them the tang. They're delicious.
So gross. Oh man, shout out to Lewis though. That was good content.
Yeah, shout out.
The Broncos made content specifically for us. I hope you can appreciate that.
For the first time in my life, let me say thank you, Denver Broncos.
Thank you, Denver Broncos.
From the bottom of my heart.
Ah.
I do also know that in terms of miscellaneous things from this weekend that we absolutely need to discuss, Lando had, I think, the line of the week in a pretty quotable week for a race that was probably not as interesting as the press conferences. He said something about a Sonic character, and he put it honestly, like honestly, I now have so many questions about Lando's understanding of Sonic the Hedgehog lore. It might be deeper than we think.
So, can I maybe reveal something about myself? I didn't know this Sonic the Hedgehog character's name either.
Yes. Knuckles.
So Lando called Knuckles the Italian Ferrari Sonic.
Yes. Which is accurate. That is 100% accurate.
So he thought that they had like just made Sonic red for the race at Imola and put him on the screen.
Perhaps. Or maybe he has a subtle handling of the Knuckles identity and character within Sonic the Hedgehog canon that we're not granting him. I think it's entirely possible that it could be the latter and not the former.
What is Knuckles' lore? I don't really know anything.
You don't want
to
listen. You can't go halfway down this path, Jessica. Okay,
give me like
Sonic
Can you
lore,
give me 3 things? Like you gave me 3 things about Yuki at least.
You got to know that Knuckles is like Ferrari, big, red. He is strong. You need to know this about Knuckles. Thus the knuck.
He has knuckles.
Right?
Okay, I got it. So it's like hand knuckles.
Yes. And you also need to know that like Ferrari, Knuckles is not the main character.
No.
Yeah.
So mean.
Sorry. You're not the main character yet, Ferrari. Might be.
So I guess by Lando's logic, they will have a orange Knuckles at Silverstone for the British drivers for McLaren.
Would that be Tails if we just tweak the yellow a little bit? Yeah, it could be. It might be Tails.
So there's like Sonic the Hedgehog has like side characters the way that like Super Mario Brothers does.
I'm afraid so.
Okay.
Yes.
That's just really one that I've never
Some people have ascribed very specific and sometimes problematic roles and traits to them. Yeah. So
well, you just did when Orlando did when he called it the Italian Ferrari.
Yeah,
Sonic.
I didn't do that. Yeah. Italian Sonic is an amazing concept. Thank you for putting it in my head, Lando Norris. I also wanted to mention, if we are going to talk about this, by the way, just a little thing. Lando, go look at those standings. And see who he's creeping up on.
He is creeping up on Sergio Perez, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I looked at the standings recently, and Max is still ahead of Charles by, I think, 48 points. So I don't know how thrilled I'm going to, like, I don't know. I'm still not at the point where I'm like, oh, maybe we'll have a different champion this year. I don't think that time has come yet for us to start freaking out. But you're right.
Yeah.
Lando could be fighting for the number 2 spot.
Listen, McLaren's in that Minnesota Timberwolves role. They're coming. It's just a matter of time. Don't you need to lose more? Man, see how much we've lost already? Yeah. They're right there, and they are creeping. I think it is also time to do something that I have not done in a while, which is we'd like to do something on this program called The Best Lad.
We do.
And I think that there was one man who, he overcame a lot this weekend, okay? A lot. 1, wasn't entirely comfortable with his car. 2, had some other business on the agenda that he still took care of. 3, complained afterwards that he was looking forward to lying down on his back and taking some painkillers because of the demanding nature of driving at Imola, particularly the necessity to ride the curbs, something that you need to do, but which is very jarring when your butt is about 1.5 inches off the road in those things. So, coming off of, also, by the way, avoided hitting a bollard, something that he clearly loves doing and has to fight every time he does it. Oh, and he's also currently the #1 driver in the world and hasn't let that bug him and continues to win, even with the competition starting to nip at his very well-muddied heels. I think it's time to say, and I don't know how to say it in Dutch, but I do know his song, that the lad of the day is Max Verstappen. That's right. That's right. Lad of the day. Get mayonnaise with those fries. Give him some pea soup. Whatever Dutch delicacy he wants. The kippers and fishes, all the best.
I can't believe you're giving Max it to Verstappen. Oh my God.
I'm giving the lad of the day to Max Verstappen.
This is crazy. This has never happened before.
I know. Like, I know we're Coles to Newcastle. I'm throwing gold at King Midas, but sometimes you have to give credit where credit is due.
Isn't it amazing, though, that we've decided this week that we really like Max, and it's just because he showed slightly less interest in Formula One and like just was like, yeah, I'm doing my other thing over here, and we're like, that's cool. We like that.
Max has been trending up for me ever since he said, well, if my mother had balls, he'd be my father.
Oh God, like yeah. And all the other drivers were like, that we haven't heard that one before.
Haven't heard that one before, Max. Thanks.
I didn't know that was an internationally recognized turn of phrase.
I don't think it is, Jessica.
You think that he's just like deep on American Reddit?
Nope. I
getting
think
his slang from iRacing Americans.
Yeah, I think listen, you want to know who's super online? Max Verstappen.
That's true. Which I do like about him because I can relate to that. So we have something in common. And although his favorite food is beef carpaccio and mine is not. But
I mean, if you knew what beef carpaccio was when you were 5, come on, you're from the Midwest. You'd be down with that.
No, because they serve it in such tiny portions, Spencer, please. I'm from the Midwest. We like our meat in piles up to the sky.
Can I get the beef carpaccio, bro? That's like, 1.5 foot of shaved raw meat.
Raw meat. That sounds
Come on. Gross. You know they got that in Chicago.
They have in Wisconsin for sure. Have you seen those videos of the Wisconsin? I forget what they're called. They're like raw hamburgers with like raw onions on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have that in Wisconsin. But
yeah, I think it's called
Illinois,
something like the cannibal sandwich or something.
That's what it's called. Yeah. It's so gross. The one time I ate raw hamburger meat, I had the worst heartburn of my life. So I'm not doing that again.
I have eaten, I believe the variation in Ethiopian cuisine is called kitfo, and I've had that. And so spiced, it's delicious. It's absolutely.
It was. I had the Lebanese version of that, and my heartburn. No, my heart said you can't digest this. we need to cook this next time.
This is too Midwestern even for me. I am too close to the cow.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe we have one more thing we need to discuss.
Ooh, okay.
And that was maybe an omen for Ferrari moving forward, which is, I believe it was Charles Leclerc walking his dog after the race, and the dog deciding to poop on camera. If we have that,
we do have this.
What did you say? I don't have the plastic bag.
You don't. Yeah.
Leo.
It's this kind of lack of preparation.
Hey.
This is until Ferrari gets this button down.
Oh my God. Okay, his dog is so cute. First of all, takes a dump in the paddock, and Carlos was videotaping him and was like, you don't have poop bags for your dog? And Charles was so embarrassed. And some poor man comes up with 2 tiny cups to scoop up the poop with the cups. And you're right, Spencer. I feel like that was a really bad omen.
It's a bad omen.
Oh no.
I'm telling
wrong
you.
Equipment.
See, this is why I can't completely write Lewis's taste off, because you know who would have had a bag or someone at the ready for their dog? That's right. Sir Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Roscoe Hamilton. I feel like Roscoe carries his own bags around. Like he's got like his own like little briefcase that he like skateboards around with.
I think he got a different title. I think Roscoe's an Earl or a Viscount. Maybe a
The
Viscount.
Earl of the Paddock. Yeah, I will say Charles Leclerc's dog has like stolen the hearts of Leclerc and Ferrari fans. If you haven't seen his new little puppy Leo, he is probably the cutest dog other than my own dog that I've ever seen in my whole life. And he is just I have no words. This dog is beautiful and he is tiny. He's like a little tiny golden-haired wiener dog.
Just gonna write this down for really paranoid Ferrari fans. This storyline, which is Leclerc distracted by the dog? Domestic concerns. Writing that down. Well,
Leclerc's
Max is
full-time
like,
job is the dog, and Max is his iRacing, and they both do
Max
F1
is
as
like
a hobby.
iRacing 80 hours a week.
Uh,
He's like a top 5 iRacing driver in the world and the best F1 driver. And we're like, is Charles spending too much time with his adorable dog?
It's probably great for his mental health. I also would like to point out that Ferrari wasn't the team that forgot to put a tire on the right way on Sunday. That was Williams. So shout out to Ferrari for not doing that. They weren't the ones who did that.
I quote James Vowles whenever asked about a problem at Williams. That problem is actually the least of our problems. So
we have way bigger problems than 3 tires
we have
on a
way
four
bigger problems than
tire car.
Tires wobbling off the car. Poor Williams.
Oh man.
One day, James. One day. I believe that is it. We have wrapped up yet another superb week worth of content here at DNF, the only F1 podcast you need. Jessica, any final thoughts on Imola or moving forward to Monaco?
I think I'm gonna go watch the Lewis Hamilton video again, watch him eat the pierogi and ask what's a yinzer. I'm just gonna go do that for an hour.
I'm gonna go watch the TikTok of Charles Leclerc coaching Carlos Sainz driving blindfolded and saying,
well, see you next week after Monaco.
yeah, I do.